It's time to cook with Susan Beck. Merry Christmas. It's the weekend after Thanksgiving, and at our house it's time to get started on the holiday baking. We love to make lots of many good treats like peanut clusters and almond bark pretzels and cashew crunch and peanut blossom cookies. My daughter and I began yesterday, instead of Black Friday shopping, on these goodies, and today I'm going to show you how to make caramels. This was a special treat growing up in my family. There was never a Christmas where we skipped this. One of my sisters even continues this tradition with my mom of making them every year. Now I've put a couple twists on this that I'll show you as we go through it, but first let's look at the ingredients. You will need a heavy pot with a lid, 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of corn syrup, 2 sticks of butter, and a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar will be the first ingredients into the pan. Then we will be adding 2 cans of sweetened condensed milk, half a cup of flour, and here's one of my secret ingredients that I have added to the recipe after watching some Alton Brown cooking shows on salt and sugar and the need for them to go together. That will be 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. We'll be pouring this onto a parchment-lined cookie sheet and sprinkling it with kosher salt because, again, we'd like a little salt to it. I like to store it in tins, so I've got some ready to go. Step 1 is to put in our first 4 ingredients. We've got 2 sticks of margarine, 2 cups of corn syrup, which would be this entire 16-ounce bottle. Into there, well, that's draining out, 2 cups of granulated sugar and a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now, these ingredients are going to go into this pan on some like medium-high heat to start with here, as my goal is to get that sugar to dissolve. We want to get this to a boil. We need the butter to melt and all those sugar crystals to disappear. Now I've just been stirring this every once in a while, making sure that my sugar is not stuck on the bottom and that everything is melting together. That cream of tartar that was put in here is to help with the elimination of crystallization of our corn syrup. So that might be an ingredient that's a little different than some recipes. That was not in the original recipe that I grew up making. Now this is just about to a small simmer, and my butter is almost melted. I am going to do something next that my mom probably would cringe at if she knew I was going to do this. But after watching this salty, sweet presentation by Alton Brown on the Food Network, I learned a few things. And another one of those was that we really can put the lid on this and leave it boil. So I am going to put the lid on and leave it for 5 minutes without looking. That was stressed in the TV show. So 5 minutes on my timer, and I will begin now. Note that I did turn my heat down to medium-low. We are 1 minute in to this 5-minute process. Three minutes in, and not much to look at since we're not supposed to peek under that lid. 4 minutes in. Don't do it. I know it's tempting. Don't peek. Oh, our timer has gone off. Let's have a look. We get to peek now. Look at this. We have a nice pale yellow caramel going on. At this point, we're going to add in our thermometer. Let's stop this beeping here. We're going to put in a candy thermometer, and on here I want to get somewhere between 240 and 248 degrees. And after that 5 minutes of boiling with the lid on, we were already pretty close to where we wanted to be. I'm going to turn it off right now. All right, let's take out that candy thermometer. And then we are going to add into this our sweetened condensed milk, our flour, and our soy sauce. This half-cup flour is going to be mixed into one of the cans of sweetened condensed milk. Just like when making any kind of roux, you know, a white sauce for gravy or for scalloped potatoes or something, that flour, when added to something hot, has a tendency to clump. But if I mix it in with this sweetened condensed milk, it will not have that problem. All right, into the caramel mixture it goes. And then we will add in our other can of sweetened condensed milk. Plus those 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. That soy sauce is a great way to give a little saltiness. Because soy sauce really is pretty much just salt. All right, 4 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That might seem like a lot, but you know, you will not say it's too salty. Okay, I want to switch from this rubber spatula back to my wooden spoon. I'm going to get my heat going back again here because I need to bring this all back to that 240 degree temperature again. Everything is mixed together. There's starting to be a color change where these are becoming more of a golden color rather than that pale yellow that we had. We're going to put our thermometer back in and see what we have for a temperature. Again, remember we are looking to get to that softball stage of 240 degrees. We have a little ways to go here, so we will stir now and then. All right, I'm to the point where I really need to be stirring. I'm a little worried about burning. I think I'm getting a little burning here. Caramels are one of those touchy ones, probably one of the more challenging things that I will make a video about. We are not yet to our soft boil stage though. We are only at about 190 degrees on the thermometer. My can thermometer says 240 degrees, so we are going to pour these onto our already lined parchment paper jelly roll pan. Now I am not going to scrape the sides of this because I fear that I have a little bit of burnt on caramel on the side, and I do not want that mixed into my caramels. All right, it rolls out quite well and fills all the space. I'm going to let that sit for a little bit, and then I will add a little kosher salt. I'm going to let it sit for just a little bit so the salt doesn't completely sink in, but I also need to put it on while it's still sticky. Oh yes, and one last tip, pound your tray a little bit to be sure you don't have any air pockets inside. Now, cleanup can be a little frightening, but it really doesn't need to be. I didn't want to scrape those sides off well because I thought maybe I had a little burning going on there. So I just filled this with water, and I'm just simmering some water in this because that sugar will just dissolve again. So don't be frightened of, oh man, the cleanup is going to be crazy. I'm never going to get that off. Just remember, hot water and sugar, they'll take care of each other. 5 minutes have gone by since I poured these into the pan. I am going to now scatter on top some of this kosher salt because that salt mixed with that sweet caramel, you'll be amazed what your taste buds think. The caramels have been sitting for about 2 hours, and I am ready now to cut and wrap them. So the reason for this parchment paper is because check out how easy it is. Oh, I might have a little stickiness on the end. To lift them out. I am going to use a pizza cutter to cut these into little rectangles. And if I was trying to do that on a jelly roll pan, I wouldn't be able to cut into the corners very well. If I used a open cookie sheet, well, my caramel might have run off the side. So this is a great way to do it. Line your sheet with parchment paper and use a pizza cutter. So I'm going to cut little 1-inch squares. out of my caramel. Oh, and this is cutting so nicely. Let's get close. I'm going to simply turn that around to make it easier to slice in the other direction. And I believe I have 70 caramels here to wrap. While the caramels were cooling, I was cutting little rectangles of parchment paper. Mine are about 5 inches by 4 inches in size. I simply just cut off a strip. And since this is 15 inches wide, I just estimate about 5 inches for each of my squares. Then I take a caramel. Let's see my cutter there. They're kind of sticking back together a little bit. And I place it in the center of my parchment paper. And I just roll around it and twist the ends. This is the point in the project where the whole family gets involved. You know, the cooking, it's kind of hard for more than 1 or 2 people to be involved in that, especially with all the boiling and watching your colors and watching for burning, and you know, even making a video with it was a little bit challenging for me because I was trying to do 2 things at once. But this point in my family when we were growing up, everyone had to come to the table and help. I mentioned earlier in the video that I really like to store these. If I can get the lid off, I'll work on that one later. Store these in little Christmas tins. And these are an excellent gift as well. All right, we better give it a taste before we wrap up and I call the family to come and help with this. So I'm just gonna cut off a piece off of that one and I'm gonna look for that salty taste. Ooey gooey. And you know, these are unbelievably sweet. Caramel just is. But I just love that salt that kicks in every once in a while with a little bite. So give these a try, get yourself a candy thermometer, and enjoy this holiday treat.